from the News Channel 5 Network. This is Score on Business.
Hey, welcome to Score on Business. Whoops, I don't quite have my, here we go. Yeah, welcome to Score on Business. I'm Pete Hendricks, your host for today, a serial entrepreneur. So many prospective entrepreneurs aren't sure where to start. We'll start providing a tip on each show. Also, Score offers low-cost classes and no-cost counseling specifically to guide folks through thinking about starting and succeeding with their business. The first step would be either attending our Start Your Business workshop or reaching out to Score for an initial appointment. Buying a franchise will be a good choice for many, though make sure to do your homework. We provide low-cost seminars most Saturdays and some evenings. Seminars such as Start Your Business, Write Your Business Plan, Develop Your Business Model, and more. Information on all these events is available at scorenashville.org. Click on the Workshops tab at the top of the page. So your tip for this show, spend some time thinking about your product or service from your customer's perspective. Also, there will be an exciting event on March 5th. I'll give you the website shortly. IdeaCon 2016 is for entrepreneurs and early-stage thinkers. Kevin Harrington, original shark on ABC's Shark Tank, will be the keynote speaker. Sponsors include the Entrepreneur Center, Launch Tennessee, and the Angel Capital Group. So that website to go sign up for that is IdeaCon2016.com. Again, IdeaCon2016.com. Now let's get to our first guest. And our first guest is Kia Jarman with the MEPR agency. So Kia Jarman is the award-winning owner of MEPR Agency, a boutique public relations and brand strategy firm aimed at serving entrepreneurial businesses, nonprofits, and government agencies to bridge traditional communications with social and digital strategies. Thanks for being here, Kia.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yeah. So tell us about how you help entrepreneurs and small business, or tell us about a specific one and what you did. Or,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we work with a number of entrepreneurial businesses, which is sometimes different than the traditional small business. So we really want those individuals who are risk takers and starting their businesses. But we work with them to think about not just how to be in the media like this, or how to be online, but how to have this entire comprehensive communication plan for their business. So we have several companies, but one of our sweetest is the Cupcake Collection. And so we've been with the Cupcake Collection for 5 years. They're a 7-year-old company. And what we started with was just project-based work, just making sure that the message was consistent, making sure that the brand and the strategy as we put it out into the public what you wanted, and then we evolved into internal communications. So making sure that the team was all talking to each other. I think one of the challenges of small businesses is that sometimes the team is a little disjointed. So making sure that we're all talking inside, making sure that whatever we're saying on the back end is also being translated to the experience of the customer, and making sure that that translates all throughout every platform they do, whether it's social, whether it's communication through media, whether it's a newsletter, whatever that looks like, or speaking engagement. So that's just one example of how we've been able to help a client.
Okay. So when you look at branding, what are some basic concepts of branding that entrepreneurs should think about?
Yeah, so here's one of the things that I think is a common maybe misnomer, which is that branding is the only way in which your business is going to be successful. Well, branding is the stuff. So what branding is this nice logo. Branding is your business card. Branding is your website. But the strategy behind the brand is what we really want to focus on as well, because all those beautiful things can go out into the public, and then what happens to them? How do you communicate, and how do they communicate? So what we really want in the basic concepts that we want to share is that strategy has to be, day one, sitting down and having a conversation about goals. So outlining what goals you want. How do you want people to see your business? What do you want that message to communicate? Thinking through, do you want to be on every platform? Do you want to be on every channel and medium available to you? Or do you want to hold some things? We very intentionally, probably a couple years ago, did not go and do any media or additional branding for a particular client because we needed to do some in-house cleanup. So sometimes it's thinking about that strategy. Does it fall in line with plan and with goal? And before we start jumping into, let me go buy a bunch of flyers and a bunch of marketing materials. And so that's what we want to share with individuals, is not just to be thinking about the stuff, but thinking about the plan behind that.
And you know, branding, I think sometimes there's some confusion about branding, and I think that there are cases where somebody will need some help. They know they need a website, and they go to a website company that does websites and kind of don't really understand that the branding and marketing is different than the website. And so can you talk a little bit about that, about the difference between there's website development, there's marketing, there's branding, there's public relations, and there's advertising. And so who, can you help?
That's a big question. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, this is the definition that I give people about the brand. A brand is the sum of all experiences someone has with your business, how they react, how they act, how they respond. And so you want to make sure that when you're going to whomever you're going to go to, and we can get to that in a second, that it's the best experience for your entire brand and not just piecemealing. I think that's one of the common mistakes that entrepreneurs make is, well, I'm going to go get my website from over here, and I'm going to spend a couple of dollars on radio advertisement, then I'm going to go over here and ask to write a press release, then I'm going to go over here and get my sales goals. Where that conversation has to be all in one place. See, PR is the combination of the organization and the consumer experience. That's really what's supposed to happen, and the business is the core of that. So the infrastructure of your business. So I encourage individuals not to go piecemealing that experience just to save money. I'd rather you go in and work with the company, whoever that is, at a small level to begin with, and say, today I think what I'm looking for is just my web presence. And that company can then walk with you piece by piece so that you have one singular communication source versus having all these people who don't necessarily have your communication centralized. So that's where I would suggest people start thinking, is just putting money in the budget, put a line item together, start putting a couple $100s in every month, and spending slowly with a company that you can build up with. As I mentioned, we've been with the Cupcake Collection for 5 years as an example. Many of our clients are 5- and 6-year-long relationships because we started small with them and then we continue to grow deeper with them. And that's really the best thing for an entrepreneur in particular, especially when you have limited budgets.
So if somebody wants to do work on branding, how do you evaluate? You know, as I was saying, I think there's confusion in the marketplace because people don't understand the difference. How do you choose a branding partner?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think even a bigger question is, how do you work with someone who's a communication partner who can communicate all of the experiences that you want your consumer to have?
Which is part of brand.
Part of the brand and part of the brand strategy, absolutely. And so what that looks like is you have to do an internal audit. So what I tell organizations is, before you come searching for a company like ours, sit down with your team and figure out what your goals are. Because what will happen is that you'll sit down and we'll sit down together for months and months, and I'm going to send you an invoice every single month. And if we don't get further than that, there's a shared responsibility there. So you want to have had the conversation in your office before you come to me. So start thinking through, what do we want to be communicating? What do we want to be sharing with people? How do we want to be seen? So what that means is, what platforms do we desire to be on? And then start having the conversation with the communications agency to say, and some of the questions I would probably ask are, what is my investment? What is your company culture? So for us, our company culture is that we don't necessarily have to have a suit and tie on to do business. So we sometimes want to walk in with jeans on. That's a good environment for us. As I mentioned, we want to work with entrepreneurs, people who are risky. Because there's a difference between a franchise owner and an entrepreneur, or a small business owner who picked up a manual or bought a book of business from someone and who is a born entrepreneur like I feel like I am. That's a riskier person. So those are cultures in which we want to adapt to. But we're not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. But they should be asking those questions. Timeline. In an ideal world, one of the questions I always ask is, when do we start? Did we start yesterday? Did we miss some things? Or do we start in 6 months? That way we understand with the relationship and how we're growing. So those are just a couple of kind of the new business development questions that we both should be asking each other in a relationship to make it conducive.
Okay. Kia, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in just a moment.